getting there at 5?
I don't know.
Our YouTube start was set at 5. We set it up at 5 o'clock.
Not me.
You were asking, that's why I was just telling you.
I was asking.
You said, To me, that's what.
Just don't talk to her, you'll be ahead.
You either need to bear with it or that's all.
I haven't even drank any of my coffee
Then you
yet.
need more.
We never even heard it, yeah.
That was better humor tonight.
Oh, good.
Lori wanted taco salad, and only a man would make it, and I thought, okay,
Whatever
you're
you're
right.
saying.
Yeah.
Don't say.
That was really smoky this morning.
I thought Debbie would say something to me. You smell like smoke. She didn't.
I walked in right as that was starting to happen. Like I looked back and so it's like, whatever, I was pretty dumb. And then it just started.
It was Saturday.
That looks good.
It was.
We'll be getting underway in about a minute. Just a reminder that I'm sure the YouTube live feed has already started. So we want to make sure that our ringers are turned off.
Off now. Nice.
I don't like it up
It's kind of weird.
because you get one more time.
Watch it down.
It used to be like fruit, blue, and bright and cheerful. Now it's just like, oh, look at it.
10, 9, 8. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, September 5th, 2023. Before we get underway, we have Pastor Tim Hacker from Bethel Church here in Defiance. Thanks to open us up in prayer. Thanks for being our guest this evening, Pastor Hacker.
It's a joy to come here just after Labor Day because it brings my memory back about coming here. In July 16th, I believe it was, of 97, a fellow looked at me at a youth camp and he said, "Brother Tim, would you be interested in going to Defiance?" While we were singing a song and clapping our hands, and I looked at him and I said, "No." And the next thing I know, I'm over here a week later. The only third time I'd ever been to Defiance, the first 2 times just to the church that I'm pastoring. And when I came those times, it was flat. And I was a hillbilly. And I thought, what in the world would a hillbilly do in flatland? But by August 17th, they had voted for me to be the pastor. And by Labor Day weekend, I was here watching a football team that was going undefeated that year. Boy, that'd be nice if that happened again. We're undefeated so far this year, aren't we?
We are.
Yes,
And,
we are.
my son got to date a really sweet girl as his first girlfriend ever, really. Mayor knows something about that girl. And it's been just such an amazing thing because I remember coming to town and thinking, gosh, if there was only some kind of hill, and I drove down Baltimore and made a turn on, 3rd Street and then turned on to Clinton, and there it was. The only hill in town, the riverbank. I went up and I got a sandwich at Burger King, and I said, but Lord, my kids, they're going to be a freshman and a junior. How are they going to fit in this town? And as I was driving down to the school, because somebody told me how to get there, I said, Lord, if there was just some way I knew that my son was going to fit in. He had a blue and white Chevelle that we had just redone in 71. I drove up to the school and everything was blue and white. I walked into one of the doors, ran into a janitor, and he told me that this team was going to go all the way to the state championship. And I thought, maybe I could be okay here. And now 26 years later, it's still a great place to live. And I appreciate you guys doing all that you can do to keep it a great place to live. So let's pray. Father, bless these tonight as they take care of business, deliberate things, maybe even fuss a little bit about a few things, but Lord, always trying to do the best thing for our community, which Defiance has been for 26 amazing years for me, a great place to live. And so I pray that you'll bless them and help them, as you have so many times. And we just believe that you will. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present this evening. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we get underway this evening, we have Kirsty Mack, the Executive Director of the DDVB, here to fill us in. Thanks for being our guest.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good evening, everybody. Quickly, it's been a few months since I have been able to stand here and speak to you all. Give you a few updates. Obviously, RibFest is coming up, so a lot of planning going on for that. September 30th. Gates open at 3:30. Event lasts until 11. This year we tried something new and different. We had kind of a pre-event in July called Battle of the Bands as a partnership with the Strady Center, and the winning bands are opening at RibFest this year. So we're really trying to highlight some local talent, which is something that we've been asked multiple times. So we said, okay, let's try it, and it was a great response. We've heard a lot of positive comments, so we're looking forward to that. Hopefully you all come join us. A few of you are already volunteering, so thank you for that very much. Really appreciate it. If anybody wants to help clean up trash at the end of the night, you are more than welcome to join us. 10:30 in the office, and I promise I'll be smiling. Really big, maybe too big from exhaustion, but that's okay. So that's RibFest, and as a reminder, that is our largest fundraiser. It's really our only major fundraiser of the year. So the proceeds from that do stay with our nonprofit for other programs and projects throughout the year, such as the incentive program that comes up in November. So that's just a reminder there. Any questions about RibFest before I move on? Okay. Quick update on the Bicentennial Committee. It has been a lot of fun this year doing all of the super fun things with the committee members. A lot of people have continued to talk about all of the excitement that has surrounded the Bicentennial. So the next project that the Bicentennial Committee is rolling out is what is called Ode to the Zip Code. It's a poetry contest that is kind of like a haiku. So haiku would be where there are different number of words associated with each line. Well, this one is where each line is associated with the number of the zip code. So 43512, line 1 would be 4 words, and then so on and so forth. So this is something that we're excited to roll out this year in partnership with the Bicentennial, but then continuing on from there, just getting everybody excited about another project where the community, the schools, everybody can be a part of it. So hopefully you guys are all, as you guys are looking at your papers, laughing, going, I am not a poet. I am not either. But we've come up with some fun ones already in the office, so I'm sure you guys can have some fun with it as well. That project will start rolling out later this week publicly. This is the first time really anybody has heard about it other than a couple of Bicentennial Committee members and a couple of other partners with the newspaper and the library. So we're excited to roll that out. The official press release will be in the newspaper on Saturday. So all the details will be there, and all the updates will be on our website as well for any community members who want to know more about that. Hopefully all the schools will be passing that out to the students for everybody to participate, as well as the college. So just kind of another fun little thing that came up. And it was inspiration from another community, I believe down in Miami. This was originally where it came from, so super fun there. And then there's a few other things going on with Bicentennial. We'll be wrapping up with a few community presentations with dates to be coming in November. So hopefully keep your eyes open for that here soon. I'm working on some final fun projects with some community partners, and I'm pretty excited about it. If you guys enjoyed the Good Time video, stay tuned, because I think we're gonna have some fun. No, we will not let the law director dance anymore, I promise.
I'm working on my poem.
You are allowed to work on your poem. You might also wanna work on your dance moves. I may have shown that video to somebody just recently and they were like, what was he trying to do? I said, he's dancing, leave him alone.
She grew up watching Big Bird.
That was probably some of the most fun that we've ever had in the last 5 years, for sure, so. And then one of the major reasons I'm here tonight is I wanted to give you all an update on the downtown facade grant program that was rolled out this year for the downtown buildings. Give you an update on the buildings, the types of projects. The full $50,000 was claimed, all in one meeting. We had multiple other projects and multiple other conversations. So that $50,000, as we suspected, did go very quick. So there were 6 total projects, which totaled, obviously, the grant request of over the $50,000. It actually ended up being about almost $54,000. And so one of the projects, only a portion of it was able to be funded, which the building owner was greatly appreciated for any dollar amount that he qualified for. So there were 2 roofs, there were 1 window project, 1 partial window project, the masonry work on 2 buildings, one of them being the one 2 down from us that we all know has caused some questionable issues where we were just wondering, are we gonna be able to get this done? Is it going to be able to withstand any type of repair project? So we will start, it's supposed to start next week. So you'll start seeing some real work on that project next week. It took quite some time to get some things finalized on that. But everybody has been overly appreciative for these types of, these grant opportunities. Some paint work has been done just to spruce up the facade of a few of the buildings. One of them specifically is the Miami Mary building. He put some funds into his back patio through some approval through Planning Commission, and then applied for some grant money to be able to paint the front of his building. So that's a lot of what we're hearing is, okay, we're applying for this money to do this, but then we're also doing this type of project. So it's really great to hear that. Out of all of the money that was requested, the total that we received was just under $70,000. And the total project cost estimate for all of those projects was just over $203,000. So those other 2 projects that did not get approved just because there was not funds available, those have actually already been completed by the building owners. So they still wanted to move forward on the project, so they did. One of them was because they had a quote and they knew that the building materials was going up. So they said, we're not going to wait, we're just gonna go ahead and move forward. And then the other one was a much smaller project that they were able to get some other grant funds from the homegrown project through economic development because it was such a small project. So that's a little bit of an update. I would love questions from you guys on this project. Anything that has been kind of rattling around in your minds, anything you all have heard out in the community, any of those kinds of things on how it went this year.
Kirsty, we're, as you know, in the early stages of budget.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to continue the facade program
Yes,
in
please.
24? It was a rhetorical question, but I thought.
Yes, no, that was where you jumped ahead of my speech here. Yes, it would be the wish to have that project put back in the budget again this year. Obviously, we had $50,000 this year. If there's an opportunity to up that to $75,000, it would be greatly appreciated by the downtown building owners. We would like to work eventually to reach maybe $100,000 in future years, which would then see a very large return in the type of projects that are being done, et cetera, et cetera.
If there's any other organizations that might want to contribute to that, like Defiance Area Foundation or anybody else that might want to add to the total so the city's not the primary.
I think that would be a great idea. There have been a few conversations with the foundation. They were working on a couple of other projects at the beginning of this year and the end of last year, which is why they did not contribute at this time. They also wanted to see how year one went. So future conversations will be had with Chris and their grant board through the foundation on any interest in being able to assist with this program.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Has any discussions been done with any of these store owners to be open in the evenings or on the weekends?
There have, yes. I will say, as we're starting to see projects be done with the corner building there at Clinton and Second, and know that that's going to be a restaurant, having the restaurants in the downtown district is what will bring a lot of the foot traffic, which will then allow the businesses to start being open.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem putting money downtown, but I got a problem putting money downtown when they're not even open. I mean,
Yeah.
can't go down there and shop, there's nothing open, you know, and they want everybody to come down there, and I understand that and fix it up, but we gotta do something to make them wanna come down there too.
Absolutely, yep.
How many people or how many of the businesses were turned away this year that, did you say?
3.
Just 3?
Mhm.
But are there more that you think
Yes.
that will want the program?
Those 3, we asked them to reapply. There are 3 others on my desk right now that turned in their applications later, but they weren't fully completed applications. They just said, if I did this, what would I have to do more? Because they didn't want to go get quotes because there was no money available.
Right.
So they wanted to wait until the project would potentially reopen next year with new money before they went and got those quotes.
If we up the amount, would you say that they would want more, like instead of 10,000, 15,000, it would still say 10?
Yeah, we would still stay at 10, yep. That allows for more buildings to be able to see that funding.
Yep.
Mr. Corbett?
What's the logic behind the roof repairs, if that's not visible?
So, if you think about your home, it's very similar as a downtown building. If you don't have a roof that is viable, so if you have holes in your roof, if it's leaking, any of those kinds of things, you can't have a viable business on even the first floor because you're gonna start to see issues on that first floor. So there are a lot of buildings that need a lot of different things. So a lot of them that we're seeing that are doing roofs are ones that do have viable businesses, which is great. But we've talked to many who, there's a couple new building owners who have said these buildings as a whole are not in great condition. And the first thing we're doing is a roof.
They didn't know that when they bought?
Oh, no, they did. Yeah. Yes, but one of the first projects they're doing is a roof. So without a viable roof, you can't have a viable building. Then there's the potential of having to start potentially taking down some of those buildings and then doing what we all don't want to see is a bunch of missing teeth. And that's...
I understand that, but if we're calling it a facade program and people want to see that progress, they can't see that, so.
Yeah. But ideally what we're seeing then is the building owner is doing more. So once they get the roof done, then they have $10,000 to do another type of project. Whether it's interior, getting that first floor up and running, maybe it's second floor when they're getting some apartments or second floor office space, something like that. So they are using those funds towards something else to keep that building viable in the downtown space.
Mr. Esty?
This might be off the subject. In talking with some of the downtown building owners, are some of the future repairs or upgrades would be maybe towards apartments?
For this project, no, but yes, absolutely. Many of them would love to update some of their second floors into apartment spaces or usable spaces at all. It's just a very, very expensive process, especially so many of these buildings don't have proper electric up through their proper plumbing. I just spoke to a building owner last week, and all she said was, I would kill to do this. But
One-
there's just not, even the $10,000 we would do, it wouldn't even make a dent in the electric.
It'd be interesting if,
You hit again.
either you or the administration could let us know, you know, what are some of the, projected numbers of, buildings and apartments that, you know, they could be, looking at to, upgrade or whatever. So we have an idea of what, you know, what's taking place downtown as far as the buildings and,
Sure.
people wanting to live downtown.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Appreciate that.
Sure.
Mr. Mast?
Will the folks who get the benefit from the grant this year, will they be excluded from
Not
next year?
excluded, it is first come, first serve. But it is, we are not encouraging those who receive funds this year
Apply again.
to apply immediately again next year, correct. The way it's written right now is first come, first serve, with safety being top priority. So if there is a safety issue, that this facade program could, address, that jumps to the top of the list. And then all the other ones, fall in line, based on first come, first serve. So I would say that what I have on my desk and what we have discussed with some of the building owners, the next year's 50,000 is already gone as well.
When we met with Tiffin, that sort of kicked all this off, Mr. Mass, and you'll remember this, Kirsty, there was one building owner that over a 3-year period did all the windows in the front of his building. So he did his allotted amount first year, second year, and third year. So it does go on.
I don't have a problem with it, but I just wanna make sure that some people don't get left out if they're
Right.
trying to get in there and the same people are in there over and over again. It's always an issue with anything, so.
Right. Yeah, it's been a great program. It's greatly appreciated by the downtown building owners and by the community. The community loves to see projects going on in the downtown. It makes them slow down, ask a lot of questions. They want, they keep their interest peaked in, what's going on or what's next. So it's been a lot of fun.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, well, thanks for being our guest this evening.
Thank you all for having me. And get writing on your poems. I expect to see these turned in.
I already got 3 done.
I'm almost done.
You already got yours done? Okay.
So do I.
CJ used to be able to do that.
I have 2 of them.
I've reviewed the index minutes for our meeting of August 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion to correct or amend these? Without one, I'll approve them. Do we have any liaison reports or requests? All right, without any, do we have any comments from council this evening? Mr. Corbett?
Our electric aggregate visitor, I was asked if there's any way the city could do that process themselves. Or does it have to be done through this group?
We have another meeting scheduled with them, and that is one of the questions I have written down. And I don't know the answer, which is why I have it written down.
It never hurts to check other resources. There
Right.
might be something better out there.
I understand the process is, and it's going on right now, they are accepting bids, and they get these bids in and they look at it, and sooner than later, they'll probably be making a recommendation that we take a look at one of those. But the next meeting that's scheduled with them is also, he mentioned AMP as being part of that process, and AMP is supposed to be part of that meeting as well.
Okay.
My concern with us doing it internally is I'm not sure we have anybody on board with the qualifications to do that. And I don't know what the restrictions are. We may not even be allowed to do it.
No,
You can
good
go on
question.
tomorrow
And do my own.
and sign on with some other different aggregation company.
What is it?
Not sure everybody has the ability to do that. I mean, there are some people that don't have phones like we have phones, or computers like we have computers, so
And it's confusing, and it's still a
on a good
guess.
day, it's confusing.
No, I get that, but the question was asked.
Yep, fair question.
Do we have any other comments from council? On to the Board of Control. Mayor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one thing from me, we sent a message out to the community earlier today that tonight, starting at 11 o'clock, there'll be a parking ban downtown on Clinton Street, running from basically the southern base of the Purple Heart Bridge to Triangle Park and Clinton Street only, to allow us the opportunity to repaint the perpendicular lines in the parking stalls downtown. That will open back up at 7. I'm sure they'll get in front of Kistner's and Meeks early so that they're open and ready to go early as well.
Hopefully the paint's dry.
And it doesn't rain, but it looks like that's passed, so. And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple updates. To keep on the painting theme, buildings down at Kingsbury Park should begin being repainted next week. So we're looking at pool filter buildings, and the new shelter houses will all be worked on. To go along with that, on the 18th of this month, the new meandering sidewalks will begin prep work for construction, so we'll get that project completely finished for the year. The area on the Rotary sidewalk where we saw a sinkhole develop has been repaired. Wanted to report that to you. The new sidewalk has been poured. Some minor landscaping is yet to be completed, but we're excited to finally get that moving down by the foregrounds. And the splash pad will be closing down on October 1st. If you'll remember correctly, the pool is already closed, and normally we wouldn't be overly concerned about that this time of the year, but with the temperatures we've been having, it's obviously kept the place pretty busy. And then I know it was a big topic of discussion, or has been asked about several times. In case you weren't aware, Omni Fiber is in town. They have begun laying fiber. To date, they have 5,800 feet of fiber laid. They did that just in the first week. Through this week, we'll see them moving. They're in the Powellview area now. We'll see them moving over to the Cleveland Avenue and Evan Drive area later on this week. That's all I have for the moment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell.
Mr. President, I have nothing for you at this time.
Mrs. Sprague.
Just a couple of things. I have sent out the 2024 budget request to all the division heads, so I'm starting that process. So I'll keep you posted as that moves along. And then I have 2 purchase orders. Purchase order 2023-01429 to Jacob Renzi for the Armory Building Alley asphalt replacement for the sewer repair down the side of the building, $17,100. And then purchase order 2023-01410 to Ohio Asphalt Paving, paving of water main trenches, $19,166. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. We do have 5 items of legislation for discussion this evening. Would you read caption for the first?
Third reading by caption only, an ordinance vacating the right-of-way between lot 43 and lot 44 in the Phillips addition in the city of Defiance.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. This alley lies between 1019 and 1025 South Jackson Street. It is a common owner. The city engineer found no public or private utilities in this right-of-way. Planning Commission favorably recommended vacation to you at their July 17th meeting. And this, as the clerk indicated, is the third reading. Therefore, your options today are either motion to adopt the bill or motion to table.
Mr. Hancock.
Just a question, do you foresee the other portion of this alley being vacated as well?
That's really up to the property owners who may try to apply. Just looking at it, yeah, it would, are you talking about the other block?
Yes.
South of there? Yeah, I mean, if they were to apply, I think we would look at that. It doesn't block anybody or anything from accessing the properties, so. But yeah, nobody's applied.
Thank you. Motion to adopt.
We have a motion to adopt. We have a second. Mr. Mast?
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Math?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
And Mr. Engel?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement with the Defiance Development and Visitors Bureau, Inc. for the right-of-way on Clinton and West Third and Fourth Streets and declaring an emergency.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes, Mr. President. For the past few years, the city and the Defiance Development and Visitors Bureau have entered into a lease agreement for the right-of-way on West Third and 4th Streets and Clinton Street. And the reason we do that is threefold. And the reason we do that in lieu of a occupancy permit is threefold. First, the occupancy permit simply allows the tenant to, or the tenant to just occupy the space. Can't exclude anyone, just has the right to be there on the sidewalk or on part of the street. Whereas the leasehold interest allows the applicant to be both present and exclude others from the area. And that's important because Ms. Mack and her volunteers will be charging admission. You don't get in unless you pay the fee. It also creates a space of time where the applicant's allowed to be there. And finally, it allows the DDVB to assign or sublet portions of the space to different vendors, food vendors, what have you. In our occupancy permits, those are non-delegable. In other words, you can't get a permit from Mr. Mack and then say, well, I want this person to occupy it instead of me. You can't do that with a right of occupancy, but you can do that with a lease. This year, as Ms. Mack indicated, the Rib Fest is September 30th. We make the lease 2 days in case the cleanup goes past midnight. I don't know that it would, but it might, so we just put it in the lease. One different thing we did this year is we made this lease hold interest applicable for the next 5 Rib Fests based on the dates that Ms. Mack provided to us. So that goes all the way to 2027. So she is going to have to remind me in 2028 to do another one of these.
Do we have any questions for Mr. O'Donnell? Mr. Corbett?
No further questions, motion suspend and call.
We have no further questions.
Second.
Second, Mr. Engel?
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast. Second. Second, Mr. Engel?
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance vacating the right-of-way between lots 53 through 65 in the Otto Terrence addition to the City of Defiance and East Side Park.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. This alley lies behind the properties on the south side of Hague Street and bordered on the other side by the East Side Park. Now, it doesn't go all the way, connect all the way to Carnes and Ottawa. And so when the city officials and planning commission were looking at that, its public purpose was diminished because there's no through connection. The city engineer did look at the alley, make an examination, noted the presence of overhead electric utilities in the right-of-way. However, that utility company retains the easement, an easement for maintenance and access to where those overhead utilities are. So the property owners have been told and will be reminded that this vacation, should it occur, would be subject to that easement. Those easements will continue to be in place. This is the first of 3 required readings. Therefore, council cannot yet suspend and call the question, suspend the rules and call the question.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in these regards for Mr. O'Donnell?
So with the vacating of these alleys, each portion will be allocated to each individual owner, correct? Cause I see it's one span, but there's individual houses down through there.
Short answer, yes. It also depends on where that portion of the right-of-way came from when it was originally parceled or platted. Most often, it is those properties, though.
Okay. A motion let lie.
Alright, we have a motion to let lie. Second. All those in favor of letting this issue lie for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We will let this one lie for this evening.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance directing the city administrator to apply for a grant from the Ohio Public Works Commission to assist with the roadway improvements on Elliott Road and on Cleveland Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Mack.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So the city hopes to resurface portions of Elliott Road and Cleveland Avenue in the year 2025. To be a little bit more specific, these pavement improvements would be Elliott Road from Carpenter to Dahmersville and Cleveland from Ottawa to Ayersville. This ordinance would authorize myself to apply for the grant, the LPWC grant, through the Office of the County Engineer. We would just ask for your approval to do that. The total cost, or estimated cost of the project would be $756,573. OPWC would cover $325,000 of that estimated cost.
Mr. Engel.
Yeah, did you say it was 2025 these will be done, or 2024?
The funding cycle for this money is 2025.
Okay.
Mr. Engel.
Motion been called.
We have no questions. We have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
and Mrs. Crutch.
Yes.
And motion to adopt, Mr. Mast. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Engel.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
and Mr. Corbett.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted. And lastly,
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to purchase a leased vehicle.
Ms. Sprague.
Yes, we had 5 lease payments come due through Enterprise. 4 of them were releasing. They are the streets, 2 are streets and 2 are parks. This vehicle in particular is engineering. It's the single cab truck that sits out back. I spent some time with DJ, spent some time with Melinda, and just the nature of the truck, it doesn't plow or haul trailers, or it's not a workhorse. It's got really low miles. So Melinda thought, and myself thought, it would be better just to purchase because we can hold on to that one for some time. You know, it doesn't need released, I guess. So as these leases come due, I think we're gonna take a pretty heavy look at just the operation of them and what they're doing, especially the payments. The 4 we went back into a lease program with, those payments all dropped. But this one in particular, I felt was just worth purchasing, and we won't have to replace it for, I would say, a good 5 years. Hopefully, knock on wood, it maintains itself.
Mr. Engel?
Yeah, did you check and see what a lease would be for something like this?
Yeah, the payment would stay flat, I mean, but Melinda can hold on to this truck and, you know what I mean? It just becomes a, you know, I understand the parks and the streets, and some of these trucks are really working hard. This one's just driving from point A to point B, you know.
No, I understand, I just wanted to make.
Yeah,
sure.
we did. I didn't bring those numbers with me, but the payment of what she's currently paying would have stayed flat. But the purchase of it is relatively low, and it's only got about 7,000 miles on it.
Okay.
Mr. Engel?
No other questions, motion's been called.
If we have no other questions, we have a motion to suspend and call. Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Rusty,
Yes.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
and Mr. Hancock.
Yes.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Mast.
Second?
Second, Mrs. Crutch.
Mr. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Waxler,
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Corbett,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
and Mr. Rusty.
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is also adopted. With no executive session scheduled for this evening, do we have any citizens' concerns before we adjourn for the evening? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Second, Mr. Mast. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Only yours.
We are adjourned for the evening.
Hey, for all of us that were stuffed in lockers